House to Home, presented by RE/MAX Diamond Realty.
Hello and half a day, everybody. This is House to Home. We hope you are having a fair day, because that is exactly what Liz Duenas from RE/MAX Diamond Realty and I, Jason Salas, are talking about right now. The Fair Housing Act, a rather landmark piece of legislation that ensures that that as your realtors, or if you are seeking permanent residence, you cannot be discriminated for almost any reason. So Liz, half a day?
Half a day.
Okay, I know this is basically, so in your world as a realtor, there's the New King James Bible, and then there's the Fair Labor Housing Act, right? There's the gospel and there's the Fair Labor Housing Act and everything. How well would you say you know this law, and how well do realtors and people in your profession have to know it and abide by it?
Well, as realtors, our role is to be advocates for fair housing. And we, under the Fair Housing Act, we can't discriminate based on race, color, national origin, religion, sex, familial status, or any disability. So, periodically when we get a call, for example, for a listing, let's say it's a landlord who wants to rent their property out, they cannot tell us that they want particular groups. For example, if they tell us, well, we don't want this group of people or this group of people, that is a violation of the Fair Housing Act. So when they tell us that, as realtors, we have to say, hey, you're violating the Fair Housing Act. So when they do get a tenant application, they cannot discriminate or screen it based on that.
And you fall under that too, because if someone would come to you for real estate advice, or saying, what listing do you have, and then you turn me down because I'm six foot three,
exactly,
and I'm really skinny, and you're like, we don't like serving like skinny people.
So as realtors, our role is to be fair throughout the whole transaction. So if you wanted to, let's say, live at Paris Acres, for example, I cannot steer you, well, how about going to this neighborhood or to that neighborhood? Because for some reason, I feel like you didn't belong in the Paris Acres neighborhood. That is wrong. It's steering. And we as realtors cannot do that. It's a violation.
Okay, now that's an interesting thing I never considered, Liz, because isn't there some gray area? Like you actually might want to give me some friendly and helpful advice. Like you could say, okay, Jason, I know you're single and you're approaching age 50. There are people in this other residential neighborhood, which I think would be, within, your marital status and within your age group.
We cannot steer you or route you in a particular area. What I could do as your realtor is say, Jason, what are your preferences? What types of amenities do you like? And then when you tell me, well, I want one that has a pool and I want homes that are in this particular village, then I could say, okay, these are the properties that are available within that area, rather than say, oh, no, you don't like that, you'll like this, because then I'm steering you away from exactly what you're asking for.
The kids these days would call that gaslighting.
Yeah. What's interesting in Singapore, when we visited Singapore, let's say there's a condo complex, they have a percentage for Filipinos, a percentage for Indians, a percentage for Chinese, a percentage for Malaysian. They have all these percentages. Yeah, I know, it's unbelievable. Oh. They have all these, because we asked the question, how do you maintain if you have different groups of people living in this condo complex? And then they told us that they have different percentages and quotas for individual groups to live in this complex. And I was thinking that won't happen in America, because that violates the Fair Housing Act. So, you could have 100% Chamorros in one condo complex. And if somebody wants to move in, you cannot say, well, they're not Chamorros, I don't want them to live in this complex. It's a violation. And there are penalties, by the way, associated with discrimination.
Okay, now am I right in assuming, Liz, and again, I'm completely naive to all of this, like, legal mumbo jumbo, and that's why I really rely on you to be my guiding light through this whole space, right? What if you happen to know that a potential client has, like, say, a criminal record or is a known sex offender, like which is a crime, something like that? Obviously, those are specialized cases.
I mean, but if you're a tenant and you want to move into a particular neighborhood, it's up to you to check the offender list to see, is this neighborhood suitable for you? But in terms of me steering you away from particular neighborhoods or condo complexes is inappropriate. Again, our role as realtors would be to say, based on your requirements, these are what is available. And then you can pick and choose what you want. But in the States, sometimes, I mean, your documented cases where agents were steering people from one neighborhood to another because someone complained we didn't want that particular individual in this neighborhood based on color, race, familial status. Now, I've got to say, if you wanted to rent a particular, there's basic standards that we do. Of course, we have to get an application. We have to screen your application and do some background checks. And then also we check based on, can you afford it? So there is a formula. So if you're renting something that's worth 1,000, then times 3 would be the formula. We have to see what is your monthly income to substantiate that you're able to afford this rental and pay it monthly. So there are steps and screening processes that we handle that we can do. But in terms of screening to say, oh, we can't take you in this because the landlord said, well, we don't want this Chamorro individual, or we don't want a Micronesian in the room. In our property, or we don't want a Filipino or Chamorro or Japanese, you cannot even utter that because that's a violation.
Or someone who may have a particular lifestyle or sexual orientation,
yes, exactly.
or Democrat or Republican or whatever the situation.
You cannot discriminate even based on sexual orientation.
Exactly.
So
okay. Now I must ask you, because now I'm really curious about this. This is fascinating. As a business owner, right? How much training and guidance and advisement do you constantly give to the realtors that work under you, as far as being compliant with the Fair Housing Act, and so basically between compliance and salesmanship, because you're in the customer service industry, and
well, we do have regular trainings. I mean, with our office, we meet every week, and every month we like every week there's a particular type training that we conduct, like a momentum training in our office, but there are additional trainings that we have to stay on top of it. By the way, the laws, policies, regulations keep changing. And so we have to stay on top of it. So even for a realtor, we have to take so many CE credits. Our education is critical. At the Guam Association of Realtors, we have courses every month, sometimes 3 courses during the month, so that we can keep our realtors educated with the changes as they come along. And even though we've taken 1 course this year, next year, a course, the same course could come up, but it'll be somewhat different because they're complying with laws that may have changed during the gap between the period.
Right. And once again, I don't know who started that rumor that says being a real estate agent is a kickback job. I mean, you guys really work, and of course, you stay on top of the compliance and all. You respect and abide by the law, and you also keep yourself constantly trained.
That's correct. And again, I stress, like last month, I think we had 3 or 4 courses. It's June, and then we do have courses lined up again for the realtors to stay abreast of their, to sharpen their skills to better serve the community.
Well, I'll tell you what, we are going to end on that note, because I know I got to let you hit the books, because it sounds like you got some studying to do. So I'll catch up with you next week. And thank you for watching, everybody. Liz, adios as always. Thank you.
Adios.